guys, it's Glenn from glenscarcollection.com. Good morning. Taking a drive here. Gonna talk to you about, let's merge. Roads may be a little wet this morning, so I have to be careful. Want to talk to you about the one car that really could do everything. So as you know, I've had a lot of cars, and lucky enough to own 4 Porsches, 3 911s, and a Cayman S. And I'm going to go over the reasons in this video why a Porsche can be one car that really can do everything. Now, before I do that, let me just give you a quick update on Monterey Car Week. If you ever get the chance, go to Monterey Car Week. It's really an incredible experience. If you love cars like I do, and you're going to be with enthusiasts just like you for a whole week out in Monterey and Carmel by the Sea, and you'll just see some amazing stuff. You'll see Countaches parallel parked on the street, a McLaren F1 parked between a minivan and an SUV. Just incredible stuff. Drive the Pacific Coast Highway down to Big Sur, go over the Bixby Bridge, which you'll recognize from almost every car commercial. And the Monterey Bay area is about an hour and a half south of the San Francisco airport. So you can fly into San Francisco or San Jose, rent a cool car, make sure you take Route 1, which is actually the Pacific Coast Highway, and take that through, and you just have an amazing time. Now, I didn't go to the Quail. It's almost impossible. You have to scalp a ticket for thousands of dollars, or if you can get one at face value, I think face value is about $650. But so I didn't go to the Quail, but all the other car shows are free, most of them, except for the hangar parties. And, you know, like the Porsche show, I think the Renworks show, which was one of my favorites, about 500 Porsches. It's about $40 to park. And most of these shows are in golf courses, and you're going to be parking basically on the grass or a dusty area. So just keep that in mind if you're bringing a nice car. It's probably better to park in the show than actually park where the spectators park. But anyway, side note. All right, so if you need one car, I was thinking about this, you know, if you had to have one car that could take you to work, maybe take your family to school, if you have toddlers, you could drive like I'm driving on the weekends, or even track the car. Say you want to autocross or do track days. There's really only 2 cars, and I think that's why I'm attracted to both of these cars: BMW M cars and Porsches. Now, BMW M cars, the good ones are old, so they're going to need a lot of maintenance. Like, say you need 46 M3, and if you live where I live in the Northeast, you may want to have all-wheel drive. So thank God the M cars are rear drive, or most of them, except for the new ones like the M5 and the M3 and M4 competition. All-wheel drive is going to be available. But if you need a car to do everything, I think you can't go wrong with a Porsche. Obviously, they're probably going to cost more than a BMW M car, but that BMW M car, you're probably going to have to upgrade the brakes. You're definitely going to have to upgrade the brakes. I don't know of anyone that didn't have brake fade at the track, but I think Porsche is really the only car that you could buy from the showroom floor. You could track it all day with a sticky set of tires. Brakes will never fade. Be very competitive if you're a good driver, and then drive it to work on Monday. The car doesn't overheat. You know, I used to track Corvettes because I grew up on American cars, so my dream car was the Corvette. And when I got one, I basically turned it into a track day, probably did over 100 track days with it, and was very competitive, but I had to upgrade everything. Cooling, baffled oil pan, brakes especially, because the brakes would fade so fast, so I did the stainless steel brake lines, upgraded brake pads, and still had problems with brake fade. And when I stepped and overheating and oil overheating, and I put aluminum radiator, because then the oil cooler blocked part of the radiator for the coolant. So it was like a never-ending cycle. And then when the car hit, like, I had tens of thousands of miles on track days in that car. When I hit like 90,000 miles, the car fell apart. Then I switched to Porsche, and the first Porsche I tracked was my 996 C4S, and that car never ran hot, and the brakes never faded, and it was completely stock. I just put the only thing I did, I think I corner weight and balanced it, and did some sway bars because I wanted to autocross as well as the track, and that's it. I didn't upgrade the brakes at all. and the car was super competitive. I could win autocrosses with that car and get a top lap time on the track, and it never overheated and the brakes never faded. So that's what kept me, I guess, where I stopped doing American cars and kept me on the Porsche line. After that, I went to a Cayman S, first gen 997.1 in 2008. And I don't know if I did the big track with that, because that car had some could have some issues, and I did a lot of autocrosses with it, and it was great. No problems, no brake fade, no overheating. Fantastic, fantastic car to autocross. So I really think if you can have one car, and you don't have to get an expensive 911. The problem with 911s now is they are expensive. The 997s are crazy money, and it's a size smaller than this 991. So if you really wanted to fit like toddlers in the back seat, like 5-year-olds or something, and take them to school, you're really probably better off with a 991, because you actually have a lot more interior room, a lot more back seat room, huge difference. So I kind of see what I have here is the 991.2 when they switched to turbos in 2017. What I have here is foggy day today, is probably a daily driver. So I see the 991 as the one car that could do everything. You could track this car, you could take your kids to school, you could drive to work with it, big enough trunk, you can go get groceries, you could drive spiritedly like this way. And if you know, mine's rear drive, that's what I wanted, because it's not my daily driver. But if it's going to be your daily driver here in the Northeast, get an all-wheel drive car, and I think you're set. You got two great transmissions, the 7-speed, though I wish that was a 6-speed, or the PDK, and you know, go for it, you're set. So I think that's one of the few cars. It's really hard with every 991. I think there's some collectability to the 991 too, because they want to last naturally aspirated engine, so people are paying big money for that car. They're worth, I'd say, as much as this car, the 991.2, and that's a 997.2 in front of us. They're all worth about the same now, all these cars. So if you really want to do that, I would suggest the 996. It's an older car, so the daily driving, you know, you're not going to have a backup camera, you're not going to have Apple CarPlay, you're not going to have a lot of safety features that you would have in a normal car, and it's an older car, so things may be wearing out that you have to fix. But, you know, a 996 is a good choice. My first Porsche was a 996 because of the attractive price, and I think maybe yours should be too. All right, let's do a little acceleration here. All right, guys, so that's our video. I think the Porsche, any 911 Boxster Cayman is certainly a car that could do everything, and I think you definitely should consider one. Start at whatever's your price point. You can get Boxsters. You know, Boxsters used to be 10 grand all day long. Now they're probably 20 grand, but that's still a great price point to get into a Porsche, and you really have a special handling car. Thanks again for watching, guys. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.